Good morning, students. Today we are going to read the use of the resources in the topic of allocation of the resources in the subject of economics O levels. So concentrate yourself. Here we are going to start. The topic is conflicts in the use of the resources. Non-renewable resources include coal, gold, iron ore, and oil because once they are exhausted, they cannot be produced again. So that's why this is called non-renewable resources. Other resources, including fish stocks, may be turned from renewable to non-renewable if they are over harvested. So look at this example, fish, which they are produced again and again. But if they are over harvested, they cannot be reproduced again, and they will be turned from renewable to non-renewable resources. The quality of the resources can also be adversely affected by overuse. For example, the beauty of a beach may be reduced if too many tourists visit it. So this is very important example. Exploiting resources, however, can raise employment, income, and improve the trade position of the country and living standards of its people. So if the resources are extracted from the country, so these will be the benefits. It will raise employment, improve the trade position, improve the income of the people, and trade position of the country will be improved. Living standard of the people will be improved. For example, if Venezuela extracts large amounts of the oil in the next 5 years, the country will probably experience a rise in the employment. So definitely more people will be engaged in the industry, more employment will be created, the income and the standard of the people will be improved. Selling it abroad will raise the export revenue, and Venezuelan citizens will enjoy a higher living standard. The government will receive more tax revenue, which will enable it to spend more on the education, healthcare, and creating a climate conducive for the growth of the other industries. So, at large, the condition of the country will be improved. However, if a non-renewable resource is being exploited, it is important that some of the revenue earned is used to ensure that other industries can develop, because the whole burden should not be put on one industry. So there should be parallel industries, so the burden on the main industry is reduced as future sources of the income. The faster Venezuela exploits its oil reserves, the sooner these supplies will be exhausted. It may be better to conserve most of the reserves. This approach would allow future generations to continue to benefit from the resources, because it is necessary that future generations should also be granted a better standard life. So the resources should be used carefully. It may also mean that the country becomes a more balanced economy, encourages the development of the other industries, and does not become too dependent on one export. The choice whether to exploit or conserve reserves is influenced by the number of the factors, and these include, so these are the factors which actually affect whether the resources should be conserved or exploited. Number one, the current living standard of the country. So if the living standard of the country is very good, so the reserves should be conserved or should be used at a slower pace. The country's need for the income, so this is another thing. If more income is required, so reserves should be exploited at the speedy pace. And if there is enough income for the country, so the reserves should be used at a slower pace. Products where the country's comparative advantage lies: current world demand and future world demand. If a country is very poor, it may have to use resources to raise its people out of the poverty. So these are very, very understandable points. So these are the points actually which will affect whether the country should conserve the resources or exploit the resources. The country may also be in debt of other countries and may need to obtain export revenue in order to service its debt. It may also exploit its resources if current world demand is high. So if there is a need for the country, so the resources should be exploited, and if the country is not in urgent need, so the resources should be exploited at the slower pace. However, there are uncertainties about future world demand. If it is found that currently the country does not have a comparative advantage in the product, the country may wait until cost conditions change. In the meanwhile, it may import the product. So, because the product is expected to be of high demand in the future, so that should be conserved for the time being, and the need should be fulfilled by importing the product to a small amount. An efficient use of the resources is more likely to occur if social cost and benefits are taken into account while deciding on the use of the resources. Here is a question that will make your concepts more clear. How the question from this topic comes in the paper. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, often restrict the supply of the oil in order to keep its prices high. There are signs, however, that OPEC is now thinking about increasing the amount of the oil it extracts and sells. This is thought to be the result in part of the fears that high prices may trigger the adoption of the alternative fuels such as the ethanol, because some countries and people are turning from oil to ethanol because of the high prices of the oil. So this is the fear. That's why the OPEC is thinking to increase the extracts of the oil. A part's question is how market forces may compel OPEC to sell more oil. If the price of the oil rises, it may make it profitable to search for alternatives. The fear of such an occurrence may make OPEC increase the supply of the oil to lower its prices. So this is the market force which will compel OPEC to sell more oil. The second question is explain why one reason other than to raise price for OPEC to restrict the supply of the oil. Answer is OPEC may want to restrict the supply of the oil to conserve it, to ensure a stream of the income in the long term. And other question is here, emission of the carbon dioxide from the British aviation industry doubled from 1990 to 2006 and are forecasted to double again by 2030. So carbon emission is going on increasing because of the industrialization. Britain generates more flights than any other European country, and a fifth of all the international air passengers worldwide are on flights that arrive or leave from the British airport. So it means almost 20% is the share of the air flight is actually from the Britain. The UK government is supporting the idea of taxing airlines for the pollution caused by them. A part's question is identify two external costs caused by the air travel. So number one is pollution, that is air and noise pollution, and accidents. So these are the external costs because of the airline industry. B part's question is what impact is a tax on air travel likely to have on the number of the flights? So it is likely to reduce the number of the flights as it will make traveling more expensive because of the implication of the tax. Of course, the effect will depend on the size of the tax and the prices price elasticity of the demand for the air travel. So these are the two factors which will actually affect the passengers, how many passengers are likely to travel through the air travel. So number one is the size of the tax, and number two, the price elasticity of the demand. Number C's question is, explain one external benefit that could arise from the operation of a new airport. An external benefit is a beneficial effect that third parties enjoys as a result of the production or consumption decisions of the others. In this case, a new airport may create work for taxi drivers. So this is a one external benefit in the area and may boost other local businesses also, because more passengers will move into the area because of the new airport. So taxi drivers will be benefited. Also the other local businesses, for example, the groceries, for example, the hotels, for example, the other laundries services and other services as well, which are the local businesses, will be also benefited because more and more people will be moved from that area. They may be able to enjoy high profits, not as a result of their own actions, but because of the people traveling to and from the airport. And other question is here, a country whose main export is fish decides to place a limit on the quantity of the fish fishermen can catch. What is the likely reason for this reason? For this decision? The answer will be to protect future living standards, because placing a limit on the quantity of the fish that can be caught should conserve fish stocks for the future. And other question is here, what are the external costs? The answer is C part. So external costs are the social cost minus private cost, because social cost is actually the sum of the private cost plus external cost. So social cost will be equal, social cost minus private cost will be equal to external cost. So look now, private cost plus external cost equal social cost. And other question is here, a government decides to subsidize a rail travel. What will be the external benefit of this move? The answer will be reduced congestion on the roads, because when the rail travel will be subsidized, so the rates will be lower, so more people will move through the rail travel. So there will be reduced congestion on the roads. So people traveling on the train benefits car drivers, as their action reduces the volume of the traffic on the roads. And other question is here, a firm concerned about its reputation decides to install new equipment in order to reduce the pollution created by it. What impact will it have on the private and external costs? So definitely by installing the new equipment, the private cost will be increased and external cost will be decreased. So C part is the answer. Private cost will be increased and external cost will be fall. So installing new equipment will increase a firm's cost, but it should reduce cost on the third parties, including those households who live close to the firm. So this was the topic, students. I hope so this will be much more interesting and easier for you to understand now. So read this topic again, understand it, learn it, and make your notes. Thank you so much.